Okay, so market overview. It is currently Sunday, the 4th of February, and we're just going to get into it. Not much has changed since last week. We've spent whatever, I think last week was right about here. We spent this entire time just kind of consolidating above this kind of order block level that we marked out here. So not much has changed. This fair value gap has still been tested, theoretically speaking, with this wick. So there's not much reason to pay attention to it as of right now anymore. But I'm going to keep it marked because a deeper test with closes within it would make it more of a solid test for me, but nonetheless, this has already been mitigated, theoretically speaking, and a breakdown from here wouldn't surprise me in relation to this fair value gap. But then, of course, there's other factors that come into it. So we're just going to go down a time frame from the daily chart to, let's go to the 4-hour. So yeah, this was the order block up here that we drew, and we have since then come above it, right? We have tested above it, and now we're still consolidating and holding on to it. We additionally have set up levels, if we go to the 1-hour here, equal highs, serving as liquidity. So it wouldn't be surprising to me to see some type of, like I said, kind of this further test of the fair value gap where we kind of come into it and then distribute from there. So I am relatively cautious when it comes to current price action, although this is, of course, a great kind of like V-shaped recovery back into this 43K level where we are currently still residing and holding on to the support. Additionally, we are tightening up here, which is an interesting thing to keep an eye on if we do break either way. I would love for this, again, well, not love, but I wouldn't be surprised at all to see this act as perfectly clean price action, which is essentially a pennant kind of structure here, kind of like the meme pennant. I don't know what this is, why it's doing that. Okay. So, and then kind of come above here, mitigate this more fairly, get this kind of clean price action into the fair value gap, which is going to trap a lot of people into thinking we are going up to new highs, and then we continue to break down. This would be a great scenario just because it will trap the long traders into longing into this, and then whether we go a bit higher or not as high, maybe retest this order block up here and something like that. That wouldn't surprise me either. So then we come into here and distribute from there. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for now. What else there to say? Yeah, of course, we can't just break down. So this support level here from like 42.5 to 4,300 or 43,000 is the important area, right? So what we do from here, currently it's looking bullish. Currently, I would say, hey, we're still holding on to the structure. So longs are good to go. Despite me saying that right now, it of course depends on how we open on Monday and act from there throughout the week. This liquidity, this fair value gap, this pennant structure, all of it's kind of pointing at some type of test above before a retest, maybe breakdown. And then over here, I would try to enter some shorts back down to the bottom of the range around 40,000. So that's the full analysis essentially of Bitcoin, the full breakdown over all the time frames. There isn't much else to say here. So this would be a perfect scenario for both sides, so to speak, where we kind of trap the longs, come back down, and who knows, maybe find support here or find support ultimately down at 35 or something like that is the next level of interest, where if we do break down into here and further break down and don't find support within this area, of course, here's some support. We could argue that 41 is some, but if we don't find anything there, we could kind of essentially just bleed down, and that's kind of the tough part. So if you look on the daily chart over time here, again, I covered this in last week's market overview, but we kind of have this double range setup here where this was kind of these were easy market conditions we've been in, and now we're back in some tougher area where you're gonna have to be more diligent with when you deploy your capital and how you deploy it, since it's just simply going to be a more difficult era again, unless it's not up only, right? So unless we get back into this retest and we start ripping again, it's going to be tough to actually trade these markets. So you're going to have to be more picky about what you trade. Let's just cover ETH very quickly. Essentially, it's not much different than Bitcoin, except same as last week. we, instead of this order block having turned to a breaker by having broken it and now consolidating above it like Bitcoin is, we are actually consolidating under it. So it's relatively weak chart wise in comparison to BTC. So be careful with alts. If you pick alts, it's going to be I would pick the shiny new ones or the ones that are up only. Best up only ones are going to be Mav, Pendle. These things have just been ripping and ripping. And then when it comes to other charts, I would just look at this entire watch list here and just steal from there. I'm not going to cover all the alts, as we never do on the market outlook. And yeah, these ones are a bit less strong in my opinion. Well, Link is actually great right now, but I'm not really looking at it. I should have it up here. And these are kind of all the other positions that I would be closely monitoring. Everything's on my Twitter. I think I've covered every single chart here on my Twitter in depth. So you can kind of check out what I'm looking for on all of these. So yeah, that's essentially it for the market outlook. I would just keep an eye out on how we open and how these levels react, right? So especially BTC. Wow, this thing is a mess because of all the drawings. But especially BTC, how are we going to react at this breaker level, right? Are we going to see and this liquidity level, etc., etc.? Like, are we going to continue to face resistance? Additionally, if you do look at things that I look at, we can just break it down here. We are holding the daily VWAP. We are right under the monthly, right? So you kind of, a previous month rather. So you kind of want to see these as resistance lines coming in here as well. Support here on the daily VWAP. And then we have the weekly over here with the middle sitting. Well, we're going to have to open the weekly soon here. But yeah, so you can kind of see these levels all kind of tightening up in this one area, which is going to be crucial. Additionally, if you go back to the higher time frame, we do have the VRVP levels coming in here and we're holding that perfectly. So this is such a key level. If we hold above it, we're good. If we break down from it, I would start to look for a way to turn this into a short position down to at least these lows and who knows, even lower. So yeah, that's it. If you want to trade any of these pairs that we're looking at here on the right side, then Bybit is the exchange to go to. For anybody in the UK, you can also go to WooX. I will also post a link to that below. And yeah, happy trading. Just take care of this level and keep an eye out on that. And for the rest, I think it's a pretty clean chart. It's pretty easy to trade so far. So yeah.